Hello everybody, today we are in La Tour du Viala-du-pas-de-Jaux in the second site, lesser known site of this circuit, this tour of the Templars Hospitallers of the Larzac area. But first let's speak of the name, Le Pas-de-Jaux. Actually it's a very old name. It comes from the Middle Ages, when here there was just a very small hamlet, which name was Le Vialar originally, and not Viala, Vialar. And it finds its origin in the Latin word villa, which in French gave ville, like village. So let's say that there was a tiny little hamlet here in the 12th century. Then this is to explain Viala. Then after Le Pas, we could translate it by the passage, because Le Viala was built along the main track that was leading from the plateau of Larzac to the valley of the Souzon River across the cliffs. So Le Pas in French means the passageway. And Jaux finds its meaning in the Latin word Jupiter. Jupiter in Latin, most exactly, is Jovis, and Jovis gave Jaux, probably because there was a temple built on a small height, which name is Le Tolan today. So, Le Viala-du-pas-de-Jaux, in other words, the village built on the passageway towards the temple of Jupiter. That's the origin. What happens here is that in the 12th century, as I told you, there was just a small hamlet. When it was given to the Templars, to the Knight Templars in 1150, probably the Knight Templars developed the local agriculture until 1315, when the Templar order was suppressed and their assets were given to the Hospitallers. And those Hospitallers in 1315 decided to transform this small hamlet into a village with a church and a residence, a logis, as we say in French, the logis des Hospitaliers, which was soon called the castle of the Hospitallers. Then in the 14th century, during the 100 Years' War, the need of a refuge for the inhabitants was extreme due to the pillages that were made by the men of war, because the inhabitants, in case of emergency, had to reach the refuge of sainte-eulalie-du-cernon, which was at about 8 kilometers. It was too far away in case of a real emergency. But it's only at the beginning of the 15th century that the great prior of Saint-Gilles, an Hospitaller, his name was Bertrand d'Arpajon, this great prior gave the permission and gave the money to build the tower that we see behind, the tower of the Viala-du-pas-de-Jaux. So the tower was completed in 1430. And soon they decided to reinforce their residence too, in building the round tower that you can see to the right with the small British. And soon after, the residence itself was doubled in adding the middle part, which is to the left, which was transformed into a kind of horse stable, sheepfold, and fodder reserve. And in matters of fortifications, the last transformation happened during the religious wars, when they decided to add a kind of protection wall. It has now completely disappeared, but the aim was to try to avoid a direct attack towards the main gate. An incredible work was done in 1981 by a small association. The name is Association de la Tour du Viala-du-pas-de-Jaux, and they made an extraordinary work of restoration. Now the walls, the vaults, the wooden floors have been reconstructed, and above all you can now access to the top of the tower, to the rampart walk, and from the rampart walk you can reach a small platform. From this platform you have an incredible view on the surroundings. So now let's go inside and see what happens. On the ground level, there was only one access to the residence of the Hospitallers, which is behind me. In other words, it was impossible to get inside the tower from the ground level. So when the first room that was found was this long one, it was a horse stable. You would also find beside a kitchen and some reserves. In the bottom of the room you can see that there was a well, because actually underneath there are several cisterns. Let's go and see one. As I told you, it was the first kitchen. You see the fireplace, and we can reach one of those cisterns. Be careful. This one dates back to the 17th century. So actually this cistern was divided in two parts. The cistern where I am actually is out of the walls. This one being under the horse stable. Okay, it's quite damp here. And now we are in La Grande Salle du Logis, the big room of the residence of the Hospitallers. It is here that probably they were welcoming the important people. Of course, it is the most comfortable room. You can see to the left one fireplace. There was another one right opposite side, but it has been almost entirely destroyed when in the 15th century they decided to build around the tower. By the way, this big room was well lit thanks to several geminated windows. And in this round tower there are several signs of comfort too. An overhanging latrine and a well. There you could draw some water from the underground cisterns. Okay, so let's leave the residence of the Hospitallers. In front of us is this tower, and actually the only way to get inside the tower when you were leaving the logis was to use a kind of wooden passageway that could be moved in case of emergency, and get inside the tower. It was the only access. So I told you that it is the only access by the first floor. But there is a ground floor, a big room underneath, which was meant for reserves. It was a kind of cellar. There were no openings except a trap in the ground, like you can see here. So now, first story of the tower. You can see that originally it was divided in two rooms. Look at the ground, it's not the same. Of course, the room to my right was the kitchen with beautiful fireplace, when that room probably was meant for provisions. So above us there are 4 more levels. On each level there are exhibitions about cheese making. Actually we are very close to the town of Roquefort, about 4 kilometers. There is also an exhibition about cereals, about old tools, etc. So let's go now. So let's make a short stop on this second story, because it's funny to learn that at the base of this latrine, at the base of the pipe of the latrine, were found hundreds of little copper chips, which revealed to be the remains of a counterfeiting workshop. Actually, one can see in that showcase what is remaining of this work, and the counterfeiters tried to copy a coin which name was the Hardy, and actually it was available during the reign of King Louis XI at the end of the 15th century. So it's quite funny to imagine that those counterfeiters were surprised, got rid of all these little chips in the in the latrines, knowing that nobody would go and check. Okay, let's be more serious. On the walls there is another of those exhibitions, and in front of me all these models are a good representation of the particular architecture of the Larzac coast. Let us reach now the 5th story, which actually was this guard room. Originally it was covered by a mere wooden frame, but in 1687, for reinforcement matters, it was replaced by this beautiful cloister arch vault, which is built with a special kind of light stone that we call the tuf. Now let's go to the rampart walk. Be careful, it's going to be a little impressive with this wind. And here we are on the rampart walk. As I told you, with this wind, it's quite impressive, but it's not the end of the climb. Let's take that narrow staircase in order to reach the panoramic platform. And there the view is quite magnificent. You discover the village which was built by the Hospitallers, and you better understand what they call Agropastoralism, because the Viala was built in a special kind of area where the ground is more fertile. And you can see, you can check that the trees are higher around. See that the fields are greener. They were meant for farming cereals. And actually, if you look in the bottom of the picture, you see another kind of landscape with a much poorer ground, which was meant for the ewes to graze. You see that it's much more arid. So this is what we call agropastoralism. On the most fertile ground, you could grow cereals that were given to the animals as a supplement of food. Of course, you are going to find a special kind of architecture. Well, just look all the farms around We will also find what we call the lavogne, those ponds that were artificial, meant to give some water to the animals. We will find plenty of stone walls, and we will find also those Roman wells that we will show you later. Freezing cold.